Hi everyone, welcome along to DigiShift 93, an introduction to cyber exercising. So this is a special DigiShift that's part of Cyber Scotland Week. We're going to be running this session alongside a cyber exercise, which we'll talk about in a little second. You probably all know, and it's probably part of the reason that you're here, is cyber attacks have been affecting organisations of all types and sizes. If anyone was at the gathering recently, you probably heard Alison speak about th this fact that it doesn't matter if you're a small charity or a community group, hackers do not care what your organization is, they're looking for those vulnerabilities. So I think there's a good attitude and response in the sector, and I think the number of people who have joined the session today is a reflection of the seriousness in which people are taking cyber, and Cyber Scotland Week has loads of good free resources to help you get to grips with this. And specifically today, we've got Andrew Colthart who's joining us. He's the Incident Management Coordinator at the Scottish Cyber Coordination Centre, also known as SC3, and he's going to provide an overview of their work and the support that they've got. And also introduce a tool called TTX Gym, which is a free interactive online cyber exercising platform, and that's going to help your organization test and improve your incident response plans in a really realistic and practical way. So I'll hand over to Andrew and then we'll have our usual chance for Q&A and we can pick apart any of those burning questions that you've got.
Thanks very much, Ross, and thanks everyone. It's good to be here. Thanks for the invite. Let me just get my presentation lined up. If you can let me know if you can see that.
Yes, that's
Okay,
fine.
amazing, right, thank you. Yeah, so thanks for that introduction. I think you've captured a lot of my little introduction that I planned for myself, which is excellent. It keeps things quick and simple. But I've been kind of asked to come along today from the SC3 team to just do a little bit of an overview of the work that we do. Specifically around cyber exercising, and as Ross says, I'll give you a little bit of a demonstration of the TTX Gym platform, which is a free-to-use cyber exercising online platform that will allow you to carry out your own cyber exercises, and hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate how useful and adaptable it can be for you as you kind of work on your own cyber resilience. So just I'll give you a brief overview of the team that I'm in at the moment in Scottish Government, a little bit just about cyber exercising and touch on some of the NCSC kind of recommendations around it. And then we'll go straight into a demonstration of the platform, and I'll share all the links that you would need to take that forward yourself after the session. So yeah, initially, first of all, just you may or may not have heard of us, but the Scottish Cyber Coordination Centre is the Scottish Government team that was stood up to basically, I think, it is really kind of in response to the CPAT attack in 2020. One of the kind of results of that was the identification of this need for a kind of central kind of coordination body, which is what the Scottish Cyber Coordination Centre team is, which I'll now refer to as SC3 going forward because I can't help tripping over my words with it. Basically, as Ross mentioned, I work in the cyber coordination work stream within the team here, but the team itself is kind of comprised of five pillars or work streams, which you can see on the screen here. We basically are here to kind of provide support and coordination and advice to public sector bodies and generally address or target the outcomes of the Scottish, let me get this right actually, the strategic framework for cyber resilient Scotland, which is basically what we're trying to address. So I think the key point I want to just touch on here is cyber exercising is one of our core kind of work streams that we are trying to target, and that is talking about giving organisations across the public sector and third sector the the kind of tools and kind of support to actually carry out cyber exercising for themselves. So I will move on from there and just a little bit about cyber exercising in general. It's basically one of the kind of recommended um, key tools that we should um, look to test our cyber resilience, really, I suppose. So I'm not sure. I think it obviously depends on the level of maturity of organizations, whether or not you'll have carried out a lot of cyber exercising in the past. Certainly across the public sector, there's a key focus on it. And in public sector, I think annually cyber incident response plans should be exercised or tested at least annually. And so the SC3 team have a big kind of presence within supporting that to happen, whether that is providing advice or in some cases facilitation of exercises in the public sector. The key point being, really, it's uh, the purpose of exercising is to understand what your response readiness is in the event of a cyber incident. Um, as I kind of go through the TTX Gym tool, I'll kind of can break it down into some of the different kind of uses of cyber exercises and different ways to kind of target it to kind of break it down into more of a bite-sized, a useful approach to testing that readiness. Um, but ultimately, it's about testing and practicing what would happen in the event of the worst case scenario happening, and hopefully giving you that confidence of where to go in the event that things are uh, not going so well in terms of cyber incidents. Um, Let me move on. So I kind of touched on it there. So TTX Gym, TTX meaning tabletop exercise, um, is one of the probably the most popular types of cyber exercises, which is really just talking about um, putting a scenario out into a group of participants, to kind of walk through in a kind of safe environment to see what knowledge is there and what capabilities are there, in terms of how that scenario would be approached. Um, the Probably the key point there being kind of testing decision making, um, and just the general understanding. Do people know what they would do if a cyber incident was happening? And uh, really important to say that it's all about getting that kind of, as I say, kind of level of confidence, but kind of identifying gaps where people maybe aren't so sure, where there maybe aren't instant response plans that cover all scenarios, and y- finding places to kind of target that a that approach to kind of iron out those gaps. I've just put a little bit of a note there to say, so we've got tabletop exercising where we can just go through a kind of imaginary scenario and, as I say, look at what would be picked up or how people would respond to that. You also have options of what's called live play exercises, where that is more of a kind of real world simulation where you'll have a kind of central team who will act as a cyber threat actor, and have realistic, real time response to that. Um, and then obviously we also have other kind of more specific types of exercises along technical side of things. So the thing I really want to pull out there is, particularly with tabletop exercising, um, that can help anyone, any level of the organisation, to kind of get to grips or think about cyber incident response and what their kind of responsibilities are within that. Um, and probably really important to kind of pull out as well that um, it is a discussion. It can be pitched at whatever level is required. I think probably my experience of being in the team and working with exercising, um, it definitely can be really, really helpful for operational teams to understand, oh, wait a minute, we didn't think about this particular scenario, um, and kind of address that, but really, really good at a kind of board level as well to kind of help people to really look at or understand what the kind of decision making aspect of cyber incidents can be. I think we talk a lot about maybe probably 10 years ago, cyber was considered to be a technical issue, um, whereas really now it really is a strategic, in the boardroom. Um, the response there is hugely important to how a cyber incident is navigated. So moving on, if I can do this correctly, um, I'm going to take us into yes, good. So having all of that being said, the key thing uh, that I'm here to talk about really today is the TTX Gym platform, which you can see on screen just now. So just to reiterate, this is a completely free to use online online tool that will allow anyone at all in the world really to run a cyber exercise, and the this has kind of been built in response to NCSC's previous exercise in a box tool. That the the idea being that this kind of takes that to the next level of interactivity, and specifically, as I'm about to try and show you, allows you to kind of tailor your own scenarios, um, gives a kind of basis for people who maybe don't know where to start with exercising in the first place, and hopefully a kind of jumping off point to really target what you need for your own organizations. So um, I think probably I'm just going to I'll take you through the actual tool itself on the website, and then I'll show you an exercise just to kind of give you a flavor for how the tool works. What I would say is uh, it may look quite technical, but it really is quite easy to use. I can use it, and believe me, I'm not a technical person at all. Um, so uh, just a little bit about the actual tool itself to start with. So I think probably the important thing here is um, it's, as I say, completely kind of adaptable. So when we get into it, you'll see that you can really run any kind of exercise that you think would be useful for you, from something very, very simple to something much more kind of complex with a lot of detailed steps in terms of the progression of a cyber incident. Um, there are resources within this tool that you can use to kind of give you or give a facilitator a lot of background about cyber exercise or cyber incidents themselves. So it's trying to build in that kind of knowledge and learning as well. So you're not kind of starting from scratch. So I think the really key thing that I want to pull out is that there's no exchange of data. So you don't need to log into this platform. Basically, you go to the website and you can immediately run an exercise. So it's not touching any systems or networks. So we've got um, uh, good security there. It's run completely locally, self-contained, and um, as I say, completely customizable as well, in terms of the exercises we've got. So I'm just going to move through briefly just the navigation of the actual site itself. So we've got the About page, then moving on, won't go into this in detail, but basically this how to use screen gives you a full breakdown of how the tool itself works, including the coding behind it. So if anyone is technically minded, then feel free to have a look, and you can see what see behind the curtain, I guess. But the point I want to make here is uh, this is all very transparent and definitely understandable, but you don't need to actually follow this level of technical detail, because what has been created for us to use very helpfully is an exercise library which contains pre-made exercises that can be run, and specifically and importantly, this exercise builder tool, which allows you to basically uh, tell the tool what you want to do in your exercise, and it will spit out the actual coding in the background in the form of a text file, which you can then save and keep for yourself to reuse and adjust. But just taking into the library itself, this is this is this is this is the kind of stock of exercises that are in here at the moment. I should say that they will be, or this library itself will continue to kind of expand. We're in the process of arranging for kind of real world examples from the public sector work that SC3 have done, feeding that into exercises that will be uploaded here um, going forward. I'd also probably throw out there if there is a contact on the website which will ultimately come through to the SC3 team. So if you have any suggestions, or indeed if you run an exercise that you think has gone particularly well or you'd like to share with us, please do so, and we can look at adding that to the library repository here. Just to kind of touch on that a little bit, basically we can navigate to different types of exercises depending on what kind of thing you want to be looking at. The Probably, I think, a big one would be the kind of level, as I kind of touched on. So we've got operational, strategic, executive. Um, we can basically uh, filter that down to what you actually think you might need, and particularly hopefully that will be useful when we get more exercises in the library itself. um, it's as simple as selecting the exercise that you want to see, or look at. uh, you'll get a little bit of background about what that exercise is actually going to cover, and then immediately you can either click this launch button here, which will begin in effect a slideshow kind of situation, or you can choose to hit download, and a file that looks like this will be generated, and you can save locally to your documents, um, and that enables you to um, adjust the kind of text and the content to suit yourself, and you can then re relaunch that exercise document on the tool, and run the exercise. I'll give you just I will try to give you at least, this is the first time I've actually tried to do this on a Zoom call, so hopefully this is readable, and you can kind of get the gist of where I'm going with this. But I've just clicked on the exercise builder section. I'll zoom in. So ultimately, you can start completely from scratch, and create an exercise, just basically fill in the blanks. And what will happen is the the kind of exercise itself, the document will will be generated for you as you go. But just to save a bit of time, I'll just import a pre-made exercise that I'm just taking out of my documents. And so you can see, hopefully at least, that the kind of content of the exercise is input to the builder on the left, and the actual exercise itself is then presented to you on the right. And it is as simple as in to add anything or change anything. It's a live update. It's as simple as putting some information in, and then it gets added to the actual document itself, ready for export and use. So just to uh, just to kind of try to very briefly show you, um, we've got different kind of different inputs or outputs, maybe is the right way to say it, within the system. It's quite simple, but we've got this stage content, which is basically like the content of a slide that you would describe your scenario. And then we've got the ability to present discussion points to participants who are taking part in the exercise. And we've also got the ability to have facilitator prompts. So in terms of added value and additional information that is available to the facilitator or the presenter, that can be added in here. It won't be presented to the participants. So we've got basically notes for the speaker, which I think is hopefully helpful. And then we've also got some ability to present either multiple choice questions or self-assessment rating questions, which I'll show you in just a second, to allow you to basically kind of get a bit of consensus within the room, and ultimately allow you to generate a kind of output report from any session you run, based on the responses that people give. So very briefly, I'll just take you into the actual view and explain that to you. Let me see. So we've got two views within the tool. One is for the facilitator, which is what you can see on screen at the moment. And the other is the participant screen. So I'll do a little bit of jumping between screens, but hopefully not making anyone too dizzy. But please shout if that is happening. But it is purely as simple as, once you're happy with your exercise, you've brought it into this launch screen here. Click on the button launch, and this becomes the view that the participants will see on the participant screen. We've got the option to increase or decrease the size of the font as needed, and then navigation through the actual exercise itself is from this. This is the facilitator screen, so it's as simple as moving through the the slides here, and live on the participant screen will mirror where you're navigating within the facilitator screen. So the only other thing probably I would mention is there is the option to kind of upload images to the screen, to the exercise. The only thing I would mention there is that it does need to be hosted somewhere on the internet, so you need to have a URL basically to kind of put that in. But again, you can do that. You can, if you create that for yourself, you can put in absolutely anything in here to help illustrate the kind of exercise that you're working through. I touched on it earlier, but what I would also mention is there is the option once you've kind of completed an exercise, there's the option to generate a summary report, which you can then again download and kind of adjust to create an outcome and actions from there. I'll maybe leave it there just now. I realise that's a bit of a breathless whirlwind tour of the tool itself, but hopefully that gives you a kind of idea of what you can actually do and how you might use it. And what I'd really just encourage people to do is go in and have a play about, and kind of get used to it, and see where it can help you. Just have those kind of discussions really. And as I say, we'll keep it updated, and add more content as we go, and more kind of hopefully some kind of user feedback will enable us to maybe adjust that so that it's really usable and something that people can get a lot out of. But yeah, so I will say thank you there, and any questions or any discussion would be great. Let's go for it.
That was great, Andrew. Thanks so much. John, I think there's some coming in the chat, and I was just
Yeah.
to check if you've got any as well.
Yeah, I'll maybe have a general one just to give people a chance to come in with specific ones. I can see Jim's got one about exporting content. My general one, just to start off with, is thinking about in a small charity, often it's hard to get that board engagement. So, they maybe think about cyber in a very occasional way. And I wondered, Andrew, if you might have thoughts on if you had a brief bit of time with the board, would you be encouraging them to look at a lot of policies, or would something like this exercise be maybe more useful in giving them insights about what they might need to be thinking about when it comes to cyber incidents?
Yeah, I mean, I would 100%. Thanks for the question, John.
You're welcome.
100% say this definitely is a really good tool. Exercising in itself is a really good tool with board members. Having the kind of ability to kind of go down the route of here's a scenario, what what do you do if, what do you do now, who do you contact,
Mhm.
who does what in particular is a question that I think has been quite interesting where I've been involved in board discussions, and that's probably only really surface. There's often people are quite comfortable and confident with they know what they would do, but actually when you get around a table sometimes there is a little bit of the difference of understanding of who will do what in specific circumstances. Definitely this sort of exercising approach really drives that out, and has been a really good way I think to get that engagement at board level. Um, you can do like very low level what is a phishing email, which is the exercise that I just briefly showed us,
Yeah,
but you can also do really in-depth, 10 or 10 p.m. on a Friday evening, the system goes down, and then step by step really what happens, a ransomware note has been received, and from kind of going through it in that kind of uh, step by step, I think that really gets that kind of engagement going.
great. Thank you. Do you want to take Jim's specific question there about um, taking content from TTX to e-learning platforms? And then I've got a hand from Alison.
So Jim, when we're
Maybe,
talking about e-learning platforms, I'm
so
not
maybe
sure.
we'll ask Jim for a kind of clarification. So Jim, are you wondering about if it can be embedded within an existing system if you got that?
Yeah,
Um,
yep. We currently use LearnPro, um, but essentially, I'm thinking that if it was some content that we wanted a lot of staff to see, for example, like the what's a phishing email,
Hmm.
yeah,
then if it could be exported into e-learning and then made a kind of mandatory course for either all staff or set staff, then we would have that kind of audit trail on who's actually undertaking
got you.
the learning as well.
Yeah. I think in terms of actually using the exercises, absolutely could do that. Um, in terms of a In terms of actually, I'm not sure if we're talking about integrating the platform itself with e-learning platforms, which might be a more complex proposition. But certainly, Jim, yeah, if you wanted to kind of embed this as part of an e-learning package, there'd be absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. We can have, or you can have the exercises there, and link out to the platform itself to kind of run them, no problem at all.
That's smashing. Thank you.
Alison.
Hello. I was just going to ask a question around support. So for any organisations that maybe are having a look at this and maybe think they need a little bit more support to run through the exercising, could you talk a bit more about what SC3 would offer in that space, or what they would advance?
Yeah, I think so. There are a couple of things. So one thing I really wanted to kind of mention today is part of the kind of the work that we're doing in SC3 around exercising is to set up an exercising cadre, which is really we're trying to get a kind of a network of people who are exercising experts or evangelists, I suppose, across across Scotland really. So public sector and um, the uh, the voluntary sector absolutely is as well. That's something that's we're getting that off the ground just now. We're trying to look at some kind of more formal kind of learning or accreditation that we can get for people who are part of that cadre. But what I would probably say is definitely if you're interested in getting a bit more in-depth knowledge or understanding of exercising in general, please get in touch with us, and we can look at how we can put that network together, and definitely includes anyone in it that would find it useful. In terms of like direct support, I really appreciate that I've just gone through a pretty what looks like a pretty complex website very quickly, and uh, I can say from personal experience, it is pretty intuitive to use, but actually getting in amongst it and having a go at it is really where, for me at least, I realised what I didn't understand, and so if there's any kind of follow up, or if people have a look at it and then feel that they could have or they have further questions, or they need some additional support, definitely could look at additional kind of sessions for actual users or practitioners with it. And in terms of the kind of facilitation support itself, um, if that's something that people are interested in, I think I would say again, please get in touch with SC3. Just to manage expectations, we are a really small team, so we would take any requests we would look at to see if there's anything that we can do to kind of directly support. But we can certainly look to see what we can offer in those terms.
Great. I'm just giving folk a chance if they have other questions to jump in. So feel free to shout if you've got a question or fire in chat. I'll do a couple of other ones that I was just thinking of while I was listening. One was I was thinking about what if you did your very first instant response exercise and got a very bad result, like maybe you were just kind of fell at the first hurdle. How might you work with your board to kind of, respond well to that? Another one was about if you have an IT provider, have you got examples of how you might involve them? Because obviously they're going to be part of a real life response, and whether you have any thoughts on that. And then I have a
Yeah,
quick thought on if people wanted further stuff, but I'll save that for after you've answered those first two questions.
okey-doke. Thank you. Yeah, so I think what I should say, or should have maybe mentioned earlier, so NCSC in particular, their advice around exercising is that it primarily should be used to test a cyber incident response plan. So that's where you have a kind of a fully fledged plan in place. This is an excellent way to kind of check that everyone knows where they fit into that plan. If you don't have that plan yet, then I would say look to this tool as a way to kind of workshop that, because the kind of, probably to answer your question about if things go badly wrong in an exercise, that in itself isn't a bad thing. I would say to identify that, and in certain circumstances that might be really useful to have that conversation with the board itself. But I would also come back to the kind of the level of complexity within exercises. I think it can be a useful way to kind of build up to like a full plan in place, and you don't necessarily need to hit the whole scorched earth cyber incident scenario on day one,
Yeah.
is what I would say. And it is something, you can in the platform itself, it talks about different lengths of exercise, so you can do 15 minutes up to 90 minutes. So as you can
Yeah.
imagine, that's kind of trying to break it down and chunk it out so that people can kind of digest what they're trying to do, or what they need to cover that way. I think that, yeah, just to come back to that point, I think that is important. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew, because if you end up with 152 actions you need to take, that is not necessarily going to be the way to actually clear those actions. I think it's about
Yeah.
approaching it in a kind of foundational way and building up from there. In terms, remind me, John, what was the second question?
It was well, I think you actually covered already about external IT providers and whether you might
Yes.
involve them at
So,
this stage.
yeah, no, really good question. Definitely, the I think part of the kind of challenge, I suppose, with a platform like this and the kind of example exercises is one size obviously doesn't fit all. That's really why we've got the exercise builders, so that the exercises themselves can be completely tailored. There is, I think there already is on the site at the moment, some example exercises that kind of touch on IT providers. Certainly, there's a kind of more kind of practical, real world exercise that we're working up at the moment in the team, that has been used with IT providers and managed service providers in the real world. So what I would say is it is a really useful thing to do with those kinds of suppliers as well,
Yeah.
to kind of bring them in and really make sure that everyone does understand what their role is in a cyber incident.
Great. Thank you. I'm just checking if there's other questions because I don't want to monopolize all the questions. But one thing I was taking away from what you were sharing there is that because it's so flexible, you could use that flexibility to make an absolute mega exercise, but you could also use it to pinpoint like one particular thing. And that might be quite a good way to start if you're just learning about TTX Gym to begin with. And also you might find that there's maybe a risk or a lack of clarity that you know about, and you could build something around that to say, right, I think this is an area where we could be a little bit better, so let's target that with something specific. Right.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. And I should say that the exercises that are in the library at the moment are based on the NCSC exercise in the box exercises.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um, the NCSC had created micro exercises, which are exactly what you're kind of
yeah,
talking there, which
yeah.
are more kind of bite-sized.
Mm.
And we are very imminently, hopefully, going to get those added to the platform as well. So 100%, that kind of that level of uh, easing in will be available to everybody.
Great. Thank you. Um, just checking whether Ross, Maddie, or Alison had any questions, or anybody else in the room.
Yeah, I mean, mine's quite general, but
Yeah.
I guess I'm interested like the kind of culture bit of like any advice you've got on like how we get people to care about this stuff. And I know that sounds like quite a flippant question, but just how many staff that I've kind of spoken to over the years where it's a kind of snapshot in time moment, but actually getting them to care in an ongoing way becomes the tricky bit in my experience. And yeah, just if Andrew's got any thoughts around that.
Yeah. Like probably to stay on message, I would probably say like definitely the kind of going through a scenario where it can, it can be as a kind of engaging and slightly wild as you want it to be. But that, I've seen that in the room that people are suddenly kind of confronted with, oh yeah, this is a real thing that will impact me. And quite often kind of the realization, is that the right way to put it, that maybe they need they do need that more clarity about how they would respond and what is expected of, or what they would expect to do in various kind of cyber incident scenarios. I think that is a really helpful way of making it real for people, because I think that's the thing that is so difficult when we're just talking about cyber incidents and phishing and what have you. It's not necessary, it's a bit theoretical, and this makes it much more practical, which I think is really helpful for kind of building that culture. I think as well the kind of the the kind of continuous kind of testing or exercising, that is really important. Like it is about making that be a kind of a normal thing to do. And again, if you're able to do that in a way that kind of engages people and is a safe space and in effect easy to dip in and dip out, I think that gets the message really well across.
Thanks, Andrew.
The quick thought I'd had about if people are in contact with SC3, Andrew, was if you are making contact, if you say you're from third sector, it might enable you to group a few organizations together. So if you got limited capacity, you could say, right, we'd like to take a batch of organizations and maybe help them run through
Yeah,
more detail. That might be a way to kind of give people that bit more support. But yeah, I mean, what you were just saying there about the value of exercise made me think that might be something almost to write into your policy to say, let's commit to doing one activity a year at a kind of leadership level. And so you don't need to specify exactly what you do, but that becomes part of what you're doing. And I think it would probably pay off in terms of having good conversations about cyber resilience. Cool. Neither mentioned cyber insurance there. Did you want to say a bit more about that? Or was that just about having that as part of your plan and process?
It was just to we have cyber insurance in place for the
Yeah.
last year, and I think the kind of anecdotal emphasis that they give is that they're the first port of call, and then
Yeah.
kind of leads from there even.
Yeah, so they'd rather know early than kind of wait until you've spent a day or two back
Yeah,
on.
and
Yeah.
also they have kind of scenario plans in terms of what they expect you to do.
Yeah.
To otherwise your insurance could be invalidated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say probably, Neil, that's something, I think that's a really good point, actually. There would be nothing to stop you from, if you wanted to, taking those kind of steps that the insurance company require you to take and doing an exercise on that so that everyone is very clear on what they're doing. I would definitely say go for it. and you can, just to reiterate again, this kind of platform, TTX Gym, nothing is saved, so you can put anything into it and it's not going anywhere. It's just your kind of document that you're working on is on your local system, so there'd be no issue with it, with any of that. Sorry, John, go on.
No, fine. I was just going to make a plug for instant response plans. If you don't have one, SCU have a very good template. I don't know if we have a copy that we can wave around, but it's basically a two-sided poster, and on the front you've got your steps that you take. So these are kind of high-level steps you need to follow through to kind of make sure you start taking action early. And on the back, you can write your key contact details. It's on the back, so if you stick it on your wall, it's not visible in your Zoom calls. Um, but the idea behind that is that's maybe not going to be your best ever instant response plan, because you might decide to add a bit more detail, but it's really valuable having that. So a good analogy is like having a first aid poster in a building. Doesn't turn you into a specialist doctor, but it means you know the steps you need to take. And I think, as Andrew was saying, exercising works quite well if you're doing it in tandem with starting to build up a plan, because then you've got a starting point you can start to follow, and you maybe do an exercise and say, right, we had that in our plan, but we weren't clear about who needed to take the next step, so we can review and refine it as we go. So that's on the website. We'll just pop the link into chat if you're interested in instant response plans. Any other questions or thoughts even about cyber more generally? So Andrew's obviously given us lots of insight into exercising. It's been great, but if anybody has any other quick questions, you'd be really welcome to ask them. I'm going to wait a wee bit. I'm going to maybe ask a question through of, has anybody already done any cyber exercising in their organization? Feel free to chip in if you have. That's fine. That's okay. It's quite a new concept. And if you haven't, are you thinking about doing it now? And do you think you're going to do it with your board, with your staff, or a mixture of the two? Any thoughts from anyone in the room?
I was just going to come in, John, as not as an STVO employee, but as somebody who is a board member as well. I think for me, as the person who is the digital trustee on the board, sometimes, well, not sometimes, bringing this stuff up, I've said this before, I said this at the gathering as well, I can bring it up as many times as I like, but it gets put down the priority from the loos need cleaned, the boiler's broken, whatever. But having something like this is an easy way to say, do you know what, let's do this as a bonding, like as a team, as an STVO away day activity, as a board away day activity. And that can be, for me, a really good way of introducing it to a board, because that's what I was thinking as you were going through it. I was like, oh, we've got a board away day coming up. We could put this on the agenda. So it's a gentle way of starting to talk about it. To say, I know the loos are overflowing, but we do need to talk about that. Let's do something that's fun, but still has a key message. I'm Gen X, so I'm all about it can't just be fun. It has to have a purpose. So this fits both of those things, I think. So from that point of view, I think it's a really useful tool. So that was a statement, not a question, obviously.
Cool. Thank you. I don't know, Tariq, if you wanted to come in or if you're just saying a little hello there. It's nice to see you. But yeah, I think that maybe connects with Ross's point about how do you create a culture where people are kind of thinking about cyber proactively, and maybe it is about allotting some time for that.
Funnily enough,
Hi, Paul. Yeah, go for it.
The best way, or what we found, is we created a test phishing exercise just by sending something into the Everyone group at the company, and ticked all the boxes, a bit like the exercises. We ticked all the stereotypical, things that you should look out for, and we put everything in, and we tied it into a Microsoft form so we could actually see who was filling these things in. We put a couple of questions in, and once you see how many people in your organization are willing just to click on anything and fill everything in, you've got something to take to the board to get buy-in. We've got about 800 users, and I think we got to about 100 people were quite happy to click on a link that came from externally and we mark everything that comes in externally, so it has a big banner on it.
Yeah.
And there was still around about 100 people that clicked on this and then filled in a form happily.
Yeah.
So yes, there's nothing like a test email to get buy-in.
Yeah. And I think that means it's not theory, it's like practical. Here's what's happening. Terry, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I think it's like really useful. And we can maybe like sort of like tailor like the exercises to like different audiences, whether it be
Yeah.
like to the board or a single parent families that we support. Yes, we already used like Know Before in terms of like the phishing emails, and so we use that like, internally, and we got like some like training through that. But this I think would be like a really good addition to all of that. So yeah, thank you.
Great. Cool. I'm just checking whether there's any other questions. If anyone wants to come in. I know there's probably quite a lot to take on board in terms of how this tool could work. Obviously be in touch with Andrew and his team, and I'll maybe look at a way to kind of get a group of charities together, perhaps. I think something I'm wanting to remind people about is that this is free to use. It's really flexible. You can customize it, and it doesn't save any data or require any special login or anything. So it's a really useful tool to kind of add in, because quite often to get this kind of tool or product, you might be paying a firm to do it for you. So it's quite good to have it for you to access. And as Andrew said, they're really open to feedback as well. So if you do use TTX Gym and find, oh, it could be a little bit better in some way, they're really interested to hear what that might be. Are there any other quick questions or comments or thoughts from anyone just now? I think people are happy. Okay, great. So it's still Cyber Scotland week until Friday. So there's other events you can sign up to, or get your colleagues to sign up to if you think they need to be caring about cyber a bit more. Have a look on the SCDO website on the Cyber Scotland partnership as well, has a really good calendar of events. Our next DigiShift will be not on a Wednesday, it'll be on a Tuesday towards the end of March. I'm going to say the 24th of March, I might be wrong. I'm right. Hooray! So that next DigiShift will be talking about mycare.scot, which is a new health and social care portal stroke platform. So we'll be hearing directly from people involved in that. And that will mean some changes, I think, for charities if you're supporting people who need to access services online. mycare.scot will be a new way of doing that. It's quite early stages, so it'll be an interesting chance to hear a bit more about that. And that'll be at 10 o'clock on the 24th of March. But thanks everyone for your time this morning. Thanks so much to Andrew for demoing that for us. It's been a really interesting discussion, and I hope lots of us will take that up and fit it into our board discussions because I think it's really useful. And see you all again in a few weeks' time. So thank you. See you all again soon.
Thanks, Andrew. That was great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.